Hi, I just wanted to share this personal story that I have of ghosts, spirits, whatever it is that you want to call it. But it was a personal experience of mine. And this is something that has pushed me forward and has driven me ever since um, in the pursuit of the paranormal, especially trying to find out what really happens to us after we pass from this earth. My story began in 1972, early morning of Thanksgiving. Approximately between 3 and 3:10 a.m. in the morning, um, my mother ended up dying. She was 36. I was 10. I come from a large family, and at the time there was six kids. The oldest being 14, the youngest being three. I'm a middle child, and I need to qualify that the relationship that I had with my mother when I was that young, it just really wasn't there. At least not in the sense a relationship of a boy would have with his mother being that young. Um, I used to be very afraid of my mother. She was more mental abusive than anything else, but she really put the whammy on me. But anyways, my experience went like this. On Thanksgiving Eve, the night before, um, I was laying in our front room. Now we lived in an old Victorian style home back in Marion, Iowa, and it was pretty creepy to begin with. And at a young age, when we moved in there, I knew something was wrong with the house, but you know, I saw things, I heard things, but nobody else did in my family. And it got to a point to where, I stopped going to my parents and wanting protection from them because, and to help me, get through whatever it was. But, my mother was a very heavy Christian, right across the street from our church, St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Marion, Iowa, and she was involved in a lot of the women's circles. She was in the choir, all that stuff. And anyways, I feel that she thought I was possibly possessed, or at least what I was able to do, or the experiences that I was having within that house. Um, she didn't want to hear about it. She didn't want to know about it, because it was against God. And every time I tried to get help and condolence from her, she always reminded me about that it was against God and that, it was an abomination and I shouldn't be doing that and I need to forget it. So, anyways, that was our relationship. But on to the story. It was approximately 10 o'clock in the evening the night before Thanksgiving. I had fell asleep downstairs. We were watching Dick Cavett or Johnny Carson. I can't remember what it was, but I was, still in my clothes and I fell asleep on the floor. And when I woke up, at whatever time that was, the Dick Cavett or Johnny Carson was still on, and I am, like, oh, panic because back then it wasn't cool to fall asleep, let alone to be told, to go upstairs to go to bed. I mean, we just knew what we had to do. If we felt sleepy, we just went to bed. So anyways, I was panicked because I'm looking around, and the only person that was up was my mother, and that made me even more afraid. So I'm sorry. And anyways, she did something out of her norm. I didn't think about it, but she actually came down out of the chair and she laid on the ground next to me and she put her arm around me, which I didn't know how to act. It kind of freaked me out a little bit, and she told me that it was okay to go ahead and sleep. Don't worry about it. So I did. I went to sleep. Next time I woke up is because I heard a noise that I had never heard before. And like I said, we lived in this old home, Victorian style home, and where my mother and father's bedroom was it could have been one of the old parlors downstairs, but in the doorway it had recessed doors that came out of the wall, like sliding doors, but they were recessed into the walls. And I remember looking over towards the walls, and I saw them slowly open like this. But the issue is that they were never closed. At least as long as I'd lived there, I don't ever recall them being closed. But the weird noise, the bumping, it was a bumping noise that I was hearing. It was the window, the actual door sashes, the counterweights inside the walls that was going bum, 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 as it was opening. So I didn't really think anything of it. I'm kind of sitting there, laying on the floor, and all of a sudden I see my mother come gliding out. Well, not gliding, but she was just walking really slow and very purposeful. And she was very solid. There's no cause for alarm. It was my mom. Except the only one thing that was different. She was wearing this long, very beautiful, but tight fitting in the upper body, but was very full in the dress part, and it was all the way to the ground. She was wearing this white, really super white, it looked like a nightgown. But I still didn't think anything about that. And as she walked forward, it's like her eyes were fixed on the opposite wall, and she didn't give me a by your leave or anything. And I saw her, I watched her step over my body, and I do remember feeling the brush of the dress or the nightgown, whatever it was, it go across my legs. And I do remember it was a little cool. But anyways, over in the corner where she ended up walking to in the opposite side from where her bedroom was, to the opposite side by our front window, excuse me, we had a baby crib. And I saw her bend over, and she picked up a baby. Now, my youngest sister was 3 years old, but she was already living upstairs at the time with my older sisters. But I still wasn't thinking too clearly because I'm like, okay, I'm drinking, whatever, right? But it was like very real to me. I remember she bent over and she kissed this baby because I saw its arm go out like this, right? And she kissed it on the forehead, and she said very softly, but I heard her, she says, "Mommy will be with you forever." And then I saw her place this baby back into the crib, and she turned. I'm still laying on the floor, watching like this. I'm watching her. And I remember looking at the clock, it was after 3, but, can't remember exactly the time. And as she walked back to her room, and she was, just as she was stepping, she stopped, and she turned her head, and she looked down, and she went, just like that. And then she continued walking into her bedroom, but I didn't see her turn around to close the doors. But it was weird because the doors went behind her, and I heard the window sashes. I wasn't thinking anything. I remember falling back to sleep. So the next time I wake up, I somehow got from our living room into our dining room, which is where we had the old, space heater, I guess, it was a stove. And somehow went upstairs and put my pajamas on and brought down my sheets and my blankets off my bed. And I was laying right in front of the stove. And the reason why I woke up is because, felt like somebody slapped my face. And when I woke up, it was my father. And he was telling me, get out of the way, And I'm like, what's the matter? I'm kind of shocked, what's going on? And just as I was waking up and setting up, he says, you got to get out of the way. People are coming. And I'm like, what? And I saw the front door open, and I saw the firemen come in, and I saw them pulling a stretcher. And then I saw my pastor and his wife from the church came in. And I'm like, what's going on? All my sisters were downstairs, my younger one, we got escorted into the living room. And as we're sitting there, I go, what's wrong? What's going on? And the pastor's wife told me, she says, your mother's very sick. They had to come bring her to the hospital. And just as she said that, the doors were open, to the bedroom. And I saw them wheel my mother out on a gurney, and her hand fell off very limply, off to the side, in her arm. And I remember the fireman picking it up, putting it, and putting the sheet up. Now they didn't cover her head or anything, but I'm trying to tell everybody that, I just saw her, she's fine, but then my dad came over and he started slapping me around, telling me to shut up, and he was very distraught and very upset. And my oldest sisters were crying their eyes out and saying, "Mommy's dead, Mommy's dead." I'm like, "Well, she can't be." Well, anyways, she died. And she was dead. And she had died according to the death certificate around the time that I remember seeing in the clock. And, like I said, remember, I said that I had, as long as we had lived in that house prior to her dying, I had always felt things and saw things that used to scare the bejesus out of me. But after her death, it increased like tenfold. The bangings on the walls and the the footsteps on the stairs got really super heavy. We had cold breezes in the house. Now, we didn't have air conditioning. This was back in 72. And, you went air conditioning, you opened a window and you stuck a fan in it. That was air conditioning. But this is during winter. So ever since then, I have been actively chasing after or pursuing, the paranormal, especially when it comes to spirits. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to capture something tangible, something that I can actually hold on and say, "Harvey, you're not crazy. What you experienced happened." It's out there. I've experienced it. I've seen it. I help others from all over the place to understand what it is that they're dealing with, because I help paranormal investigators. They call me, they give me an address, and I can pretty much tell them what's going on. But I'm not asking anybody to change their belief system, anything. But all I'm asking is for others to have an open mind of the possibilities of other things. Research, experience, and then come up with your own idea. Don't let somebody else tell you how to think. Anyways, thank you. This is my story. And if you like this, there will be more coming because I have tons of stories and other videos that are in production, but I will get them on my channel. And I do thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, tell your friends, and we'll see you next time.